have to, yeah, hold up. There you go. Do it like this. And then, hold up. I have to see how I can add him. Do-do-do. So, okay. Now, wish me luck. Okay. How can I have to see how I can invite him. I don't know how to do that.
Maybe I could get you
There you go. I got it. Yes.
How do I do?
There you go. I just invited him. You have to refresh the page. Okay, now let me see. Oh, shoot. My bad, guys. I have to do it like this. My phone is acting up. But I can't get out of here now. Okay. Now, Oni, I don't know how to get you in here. To be, like this. My bad, guys. I have to do it like this. Okay. All the way.
Yo.
Hi.
All right. What's going on?
Yeah, I'm glad it's finally working.
Are we better from right here, or do I need to turn my camera the other way?
Yeah.
Gotta turn it the other way?
Yeah. Yeah, like this is good. Okay.
Hold on, take my charger out.
I'm gonna start off by saying hello, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. This is my first episode of Nita's Universe, and today I have my first guest, Oni. And why don't you tell us something about yourself?
What's going on, family? I go by Oni Osaru. A little bit about myself. As the family in here knows, I started off as a party promoter in Columbia, South Carolina. And basically, it was a vicarious life of long nights, 3 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the morning, make a lot of money, and it was pretty much. And I didn't know guys, so me became to reality.
The
So
connection is
basically,
bad. The connection is kind of bad right now. Hello?
can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
All right, y'all can see me? Good.
Well, the picture froze, but I can hear you.
Okay, wait. Somebody in the chat, let us know if you can see me clearly, or is the picture still froze?
It still froze. Like it I don't know, it keeps stopping yeah.
Okay, because I see you clearly.
Okay.
Do I need, says going in and out.
Yeah, probably Facebook is messing with us, but now it seems like to be good now, okay? Yeah, it seems to be good now.
How is the audio, family? She said she cannot hear. Okay, L said we can hear. Okay, now it's okay. Okay.
Good.
As I was saying, a little bit about myself, party promoter. I didn't want to go to college. I wanted to make my mom proud, one of those type things. I never wanted to be a college kid or whatnot. I wasn't that type of person. So I ended up going to college. I went to a historical black college. I went to Claflin University. And I started to meet people into spirituality. And they put me onto a consortium of information that led me into my own studies. And after leading me into my own studies, I discovered scholars like John Henry Clark, Yosef Ben Yakinen, Bobby Hemmett, Brother Panic, people like that. And it led me to do my own studies, which led me to write my own book, which we're going to get into. And I'll let Nita take it from there.
Yeah, I have the book right here. The Blueprint of Darkness. As you can see, I have my little Post-its in here. And yeah, I'm gonna start off with the question, what is esotericism and what is metaphysics?
Okay, hold on one second. I'm gonna answer that. Somebody's blowing up my line. Okay, esotericism. Most of us grew up on a particular religion, or we grew up on a basis of study of something supernatural or something to occur within us spiritually that we must obtain through moralism. That is called exotericism, not esotericism. It's with an X, and you got another one with an S. Exotericism is the stories you get in the Bible, you get in the Upanishads or the Quran or the Torah, all these different religious books that make these stories seem historical and to teach you walks of life that's good or bad. If you do this, God gonna strike you with lightning. Or you do something like this, you're gonna get burned into eternal hell. This is what you call exoteric. They're not teaching you what esotericism is, and what esotericism is the study of the inner worlds of spirituality, or the breakdown of something exoteric on a more explanative manner. So it breaks down into mythology at first. Mythology is the first stories told. The first stories told came from an ancient people, which we all know. Those people are us. And these people were describing mythological things to uncover the mysteries of the soul by giving you various stories so you can understand it and break it down. So for example, you will get the story of Humpty Dumpty fell off a wall. Everybody heard the story of Humpty Dumpty. Growing up, that's a fairy tale. That's something you know that's not true. And that's what you call exotericism. But the esotericism of Humpty Dumpty fell off a wall, all the king's horsemen, all the king's women couldn't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. It's talking about these souls that got broke up at the beginning of time, and they have to come together again at one point and rejoin. That's us. That's the esoteric side of it. The exoteric side is what they give you, but they don't go into explanation, and you think it's a myth all your life, but they're describing something in the works of spirituality inside of yourself. So I wrote a book to break down what is esotericism so people can get a grasp in a understandable manner of what it is.
Yeah.
And feel free to ask questions too. I don't know if you told them that.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention that. If you want to ask questions, just place your questions in the comment section, and then he will go ahead and answer that for you. Okay. Now you Can you explain metaphysics?
We still here?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I asked if you can explain what metaphysics are.
All right. Metaphysics is anything of a description outside of the physical, anything supernatural. So, for instance, recently you have a entourage of movies coming out of America. You have a new movie that just came out called Kin, Kin.
Mm-hmm.
If you haven't seen this movie and you're uh, a brown person, because you know these people get into titles real hard. If you're a brown person, you must go see this movie Kin. This is a metaphysical movie. It's a description of things occurring within the physical realm. They're giving you characters out of a movie, but the characters in the movie are actually they're characters describing chakras in your body. That's metaphysical. So a character in mythology is actually something interacting as people or whatever they put in the script, when in actuality is physics. So metaphysics coincides with mythology also. Mythology is physics with characters. Metaphysics is what is outside of the physical and what is related to spirituality. So that's a basic description. I see one question. King David says, when you say the souls come together, is it like a incubation and all those souls becomes one? And that's a demon. That's not exactly what I was saying. A demon, let me nip this in the bud 1 second, Nita.
Yeah.
A demon isn't what the religious text told you what it was. A demon in actuality is a deity chained to a physical body. So you get the word deity. A demon is a deity chained to a physical body. The word demon comes from the word, there's a Spanish word, diablos, which means the two-headed one. You have one head in the physical and you have one head in the spirit realm. There's only particular people who have another head in the spiritual realm, people with souls. So you have one head in the physical realm and you have another head in the spirit realm. That would be, in the ancient world, a demon. And I wish I could show pictures over there. I don't have no pictures in a description of what this is, but we have thousands of hieroglyphs and pictures to describe what I'm saying. If you want those pictures, just inbox me and I'll send it over. But we got to continue with the interview.
Okay. You said something. You chose a passage of the Bible in Revelation.
Yes.
It said,
Mm-hmm.
"And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world." And I would like to know, why did you choose that passage?
Okay. The Bible is a eschatological text. What is eschatology? Eschatology is events that will happen in the future.
Okay.
Nothing in the Bible ever occurred. So the reason why I brought, because Revelations is in actuality a Persian doctrine. The whole Revelations is older than the whole Bible. The book of Revelations is older than the whole Bible. The Bible is a consortium of ancient texts coming out of what you call the Nag Hammadi Library, dug up in 1945. Out of the Nag Hammadi Library, you have these texts called Gnosticism, which means knowledge. There's also not Gnosticism. Gnostic is where you get the word Genesis from, or what you call the genes of Isis. Genesis, genes of Isis, Gnostic. It's the same reference. In Revelation, what she just mentioned, they talk about those who were slain at the beginning of the world. Who was slain at the beginning of the world? Well, in the Bible, they talk about Christ. They have a plethora of story of Christ and Jesus and what that is in whatever context. But you have no book in the Bible describing who is this character called Satan. And you have no book in the Bible describing this character called Lucifer. All we get from Lucifer and Satan is that he's the adversary of Christ. And if you do something bad, then you're basically with him and you will be thrown into a lake of fire. Yeah. That's Revelation. Right. So the ones who were slain in the beginning of the world goes into an older mythological text talk about these deities called the Titans.
Yeah.
The Titans were these ancient gods that ruled the cosmos and ruled before what you have in the later solar deities, the Olympian gods, so as Zeus, Poseidon, you know, all these people is, you know, y'all know what I'm saying. These Titans are the parents of Zeus and all of these other deities. So these Titans used to rule. There was a great war in heaven. You see that in every religious text. Yep. You get that in the Upanishads. They talk about the Asuras. The Asuras is also the Titans, same people. Or you get the word Satan, Satan, Titan, same thing. So Satan, Titan is Satan is a later version of what Titans are. But they didn't give you the full story, because if you get the full story, you'll put two and two together. So I'm gonna give you the full story based off what she's saying. Those who were slain at the beginning. There was a war in heaven. These Titans ruled for gazillion years. You can't put a number on these years.
Yeah.
In physics, energy cannot die. Energy is only transferred. So in an explanation in this mythology, what is happening is when they say the Titans were killed, or when they say in Revelations, those who were slain, the ones who were slain were these Titans. They didn't die or they wasn't slaved because they were weak. You got to look at it as physics. If you have one energy on this level, and you have another energy on this level, this energy eventually has to slip down under this energy. Physics, everything at the top in physics must come to the bottom, and everything at the bottom must come back to the top. That's what you have with the hourglass, when you flip the hourglass. When the Titans were slayed, they were describing a text or a creation mythos of how man was created, because they said when the Titans were slayed, they took the ashes of the Titans and made man out of these titanic ash. So it was a transference of energy. So these Titans became the first men and women of the planet, which are Black people.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Which are Black people. So that would mean if you were a higher energy and you slipped down and became man, that energy is still inside of you. So when they say, let me get into this too, Nita. When they say Black people are cursed, I want to nip this in the bud. You get this in the Bible. You talk about Black people are cursed. Or you talk about Noah's son and Ham, or whatever they talk about, Shem, Ham, and all that, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
The word curse has a etymology. Etymology is where words come from. The word curse comes from a Latin word called crux. It's also where you get the word cross from.
Yep.
Curse in this context doesn't mean curse in a context of you are damned. Crux means in Latin to run through. So the text was saying not black people are cursed in the Bible. It was saying that everything in the Bible and in this physical reality runs through black people.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Do you think that the people who translated these scripts and put them into the Bible, do you think they made mistakes on purpose with the translation of the words to kind of like change the meaning?
To an extent, not really. Basically what happened, they got Paul and Josephus. Paul and Josephus was the main writers of the Bible. And you had a council who wanted to redirect esotericism into an exoteric thought form for a political rule. It was a political agenda. So we take this context when they say give 10% of the church. That came from an Egyptian text where they talked about you have to give 10% of your spirit, of your soul. You have to go into 10% of meditation in yourself, not money. So it was a political agenda, but no, they didn't change it. They just taught you different. The text is right. It just was taught different to enslave your mind, or mind control. That's the name of the book, Eradication of Mind Control. So it's all about mind control. That's what it's about. But no, I don't believe that they changed it. They chopped it up. I'll say that. They didn't give you the full story, but they didn't. You can find those same strips in many books, the Septuagint, the Kabbalah, the Upanishads. There's so many texts.
Tammy had a question. She's asking, what are we talking about? We are talking about his book, The Blueprint of Darkness, and we are going through different topics that he has in his book. And yeah, that's what we're actually talking about. And also, he was explaining some things from the Bible, how, like, what the real meaning is and not how they just write it in there.
Right.
Yeah.
That's right, David. You have to give 10% back. And this whole thing is, yes, it's all about vibration. So let me go back on this thing. All of this thing is mind control coming out the Bible. But the text that they got it from is in actuality true. They just misconstrued it and confused you. So if you read I'm not one of those Bible bangers. You know, you got a lot of people on Facebook, you know, you want to bang on Christianity. Without Christianity, you would have never even got me. You know, you would have never got the book because it taught you moralism, but it didn't teach you nothing spiritual about yourself. So it's a stepping stone. You have to step, the initiate in anything magical. The initiate must start at a certain place. He's called the fool. The fool has to go out and find his path. If you go into the tarot deck, the fool is the most commonly played card. So you have a bunch of fools, but the fool is the most divine card as well. Because the fool sets out on a journey to become the Christ. All of us are Christ, or the proper word, the Christus, or the Christos, or a older word they took out the dictionary in 1905 is called Chrysomelnos,
Could you say
which
that
means
again?
black Christ. It's an older word they took out the American dictionary in 1905. Matter of fact, Hitler got it from Rudolf Steiner. This guy named Rudolf Steiner. Get the book Rudolf Steiner, Cosmic Memory, which we're gonna get into melanin a little bit later on, but that's what melanin is, cosmic memory, but it's a more detailed description of what it is, and we'll get into that. But it's called Chrysomelnos. Chrysomelnos is one of the original names, but you have an older word called occultum, which is where you get the word occult from. Occultum also means the Christ or melanin.
Okay, I didn't
So you
know.
got older words. Yes.
Okay, that's interesting. That's interesting. And unfortunately, they don't tell you that in school or something like that. You had a lot of you had many years of research, that you had to go through to get these kind of information.
Right. Right. And definitely in school. I mean,
Mhm.
just think about it. You give your kid's mind to someone else to
Yep.
be programmed.
Yeah,
You give them.
but the problem is, I mean, I think in America you are allowed to homeschool your children, but over here in Germany, they take your children away if you do that. you know and like this is
Mm,
this is a big
mm,
problem for me because I do not want my son to go to school here, but it's nothing else I can do. I have to do it. I am forced to put my child into that system. I mean, yeah, they learn some things that's important and stuff, but it's like
right.
I just don't like certain things. Or even in kindergarten, I didn't have no other chance but to put him into a Catholic kindergarten. And then when they come with Krautland, yeah, I guess that's what you could call it too, but yes. And but yeah, even in the kindergarten they be talking about Jesus, or they had something like that you would maybe call Thanksgiving. And then they
Right.
were like, oh, we thank you, God, for the fruits that you give us and stuff. And then my son the next day, he was like, yeah, I thank God for this apple, but I can't see him. And I'm like,
Mm.
oh, I don't want you to think like this. I mean, it's on me to teach him right, and I know that. But it's still like you have to work against what they are teaching, and still
Right.
try to just manage it at home. So that's the only choice that I have. Hold on, I have to plug my phone up.
No
Give me.
problem. And understand this, what parents, it is your responsibility to this thing. You can't let the world raise your child. That's very false. Like letting the world do that, that's a double negative if you do something like that. You have to teach, and you have to be the person that gives that particular information out.
Well, they
Don't,
started they
mhm.
started doing this since the Nazi time. They since then they forced people to put their children in public schools. And I read about the case here in Germany, a family, I think they had 3 or 4 children, and they did homeschooling, and all of their children got taken away, put in homes, and the parents had to go to court for a long time, and had to fight to get their children back, and they only gave them their children back because they promised that
Mhm.
they would put him in a public school. And I think I just hate it, I really hate it. I mean, some people say if the child is being taught at home, the child doesn't have friends or cannot socially interact. And I'm like, that's bullshit. You can teach your child at home.
Right.
Child can go outside. It can go whatever, play soccer somewhere or whatever, And I
Mhm.
think that most of the children who are taught at home are more intelligent. It's what I just think than
Yeah.
the people who are in school. And the teachers, they don't have no time. I remember when I was in school and I had a question, sometimes my question didn't get answered, you know, or I had to wait a long time, or he just did it quick. And it's like, it's nonsense to put your child in there, but if you have to.
Right. When I was in school, I used to write in my journal all the time and get in trouble. But my mom would call up there and tell them to let me do that because if I ain't do that, I was gonna be bad. I'd be causing, you know, chaos in the classroom. So writing in my journal was actually something that, freed me from and it helped me learn. It was a learning mechanism for me. So they used to take that away from me sometimes, but my mom would try to, keep that going so I can get the education that I needed.
So you
But
did that
that's the thing
during
about it.
classes?
Hmm. You said what?
You did that during classes that you wrote in your journal?
Oh, all the time. I used to write books when I was like 9 years old. When I was 9 years old, I already knew about the astral plane when I was 9.
Wow.
I used to go on Yahoo Messenger. I don't know if anybody knew about Yahoo Messenger.
Mhm.
They used to have these chat rooms, and I used to act like I was like 25 or something because I was a little bit more intellectual, so they didn't know I was 9. Because a lot of people are idiots, really. When I was younger, I used to have this big outlook on what adults were. Then when I became a adult, I was like, these people aren't so bright, as
Yeah.
I thought they were, growing up. You grow up, now you're an adult. You're like, oh, okay, these people are actually kids in adult bodies. So yeah, learning from home it could breed geniuses.
Yeah.
You don't have that distraction, and you can actually let them grow in their talent. If had I grown in my talent, who knows? Could have been, you know, New York best time seller by now.
I think,
I was writing books from back then.
and
Hmm.
what I don't like about the school system is they just put everybody through the same shit. Like it doesn't matter where your strength is or where your weakness is. It's like you just got to learn everything what everybody else has to learn. And I think that's
Hmm.
really wrong because you just can't program everybody like that. I think somewhere in Asia they have a different type of system. Like they first kind of like give everybody the same subjects, lessons and stuff like this, and then after some time they see where what the children really like to do and where they are good at, and this is what they are going to learn. And I think that's
Right.
actually the best thing to do. Like this is the smartest thing that you can do. Like I'm not good at mathematics, for example. I was
Either.
studying for 2 weeks for hours and I still had a bad grade. It's like it just didn't get into my mind right, but I was good at German, at English, or at other classes that I used to have.
See what the kids destroys.
Yeah. That's why the Asians are ahead. When it comes to this particular structure. Now, understand, we still run this thing, even if we're not, as what they say, educated. This thing is very spiritual, and even when it comes to that, it's a developing type thing. Most of this thing is spiritual. But you have some questions. They have questions going in.
I look here.
Right here.
Lucio Bittoy, I pronounced that right. Do I think the last pyramids found are still operational? Which ones aren't operational now? Who shut the power? Who shut the power off? Well, let me get into this. The pyramid is inside of you. The pyramid, let me get into this. Let me give you this. If you go outside right now, there's 3 stars in the sky that is lined up together. Those are the stars of Orion.
Yep. My favorite stars.
Right. Those 3 stars are aligned to how the Pyramid of Giza was built. But what they don't tell you is the alignment is based off the 3 main glands in black people. The 3 main glands in black people are the pituitary gland, the hypothalamus gland, and the pineal gland. Those are the 3 stars of Orion. Those are the 3 crosses of Calvary in the Bible. Those are the 3 Marys. Or you go into mythology, they talk about the 3 witches in Clash of the Titans. They got them 3 old women, and one is holding the eye in her hand. I don't know if y'all seen Clash of the Titans. That's the pyramid. The pyramid is inside of you. You're a walking pyramid. We are the pyramid. Check. What's up, Bala? We got France out here too. All over the world.
Yeah.
So the 3 sisters, yes. Let's get in another question. You want to read the next one? I don't know if that is a question.
King David D. Zion said, Astro plane, good one. A question on that, Oni. Me and my Rasta friend was talking about astral travel and out-of-body experience, but he was reasoning that it's not going out. They want you to think that, but actually you're going in, innermost of your true being. Thoughts?
Well, no, that's not true. The astral plane, see, is mainly white people talking about the astral plane, the ascended masters. We got to nip that in the bud. There's something else called quantum travel. Quantum travel or hyperspace travel. This is inward travel. The astral plane is outside of us. The astral plane is when you go into the dream realm, and 1 minute you riding a bicycle, and the next minute you in the forest, and the next minute you in the classroom where you was in 3rd grade. That's the astral plane. That's the illusionary realm. It's a bunch of realms meshed together. That's the astral plane. And you don't want to go to the astral plane because the astral plane is a particular place. Go get the movie. It's a movie that came out called Flatliners. In the movie, the girl is these nurses and these doctors, and they basically discover how to kill somebody and bring them back, and the person experiences death for themselves. When she experiences death, she comes out of her body and she's met with old trials and errors from her past. That's the astral plane. If you are into the astral plane, when you die, your body will jump outside of you and you will go home and knock on the door and nobody will answer the door because you haven't realized you died yet. That's why you get into quantum traveling, which deals with dreams. We're going to get into dreams later on. We'll get into dreams. You got to deal with quantum traveling, which the quantum travel makes the soul aware that it has made a transition. When your astral body comes out of your body, it doesn't know that it's out of your body. Anybody ever had sleep paralysis?
Yeah.
What is sleep paralysis? What they say is a witch riding your back, an old hag or something. See, those are all fairy tales. Sleep paralysis, the reason why you can't move your body. When you're sleeping, there's a point of time you can't move. You try to stream, you can't do nothing.
Yeah.
The soul hasn't gotten back in the body, it's still traveling. That's why you can't move. So we're constantly getting out of this shell, and we don't know how to see into what's outside of the shell. But white people want you to get into this astral plane thing because the astral plane is conjoined with the physical realm, and they want the physical realm to be sustained because they running it right now, or they running around it.
I have a question. Just to make sure that I understand that right. You say that when you have sleep paralysis, that it's because, is it that your soul or your astral body or whatever? Because like you lay in there and you actually aware of what's like going on around you, but you just can't move. So I'm asking, because like if your soul is gone, you're actually dead. So that's my question. Like what is still in your body while the other part is traveling, kind of?
Okay, listen up. When you look and go see those planets outside of Earth, you see Saturn, you see Mars, Venus, all these planets. You have chakras in your body that correspond to those planets. The soul, yes, there you go, is connected to something called a silver cord. They call it an astral cord. The soul is at the bottom of that cord. You have 7 astral bodies, which are the 7 chakras. You have 7 astral bodies. So we're not talking about one. It's way more advanced than what we think. You can't construe it into one thing because it's multifaceted on how to describe how this thing goes. Now, you said that when the soul leaves and you're dead. That's not necessarily true because the soul is traveling the planets in the body. It's constantly traveling these planets. That's why you can wake up and be angry. Chakras are emotions.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with people talking about, oh, I need to align my chakras. Well, you need to get your emotions straight. The emotions is connected to what they call the ego. The ego believes it's alive. The soul is asleep and it wants to tell the ego that I'm actually alive, but I'm down here in the root chakra, but I want to ascend. The ascension is through knowledge.
Yeah.
If you don't know about it, then how do you know? The Egyptians said the most evil thing ever created was ignorance. Ignorance is not stupidity. Ignorance is not knowing. Stupidity is knowing something, but you still do it anyway.
Yeah.
That's stupidity. So ignorance is the most evil thing, and ignorance is what keeps the ego in control. So some people think it's their soul talking to them, but in actuality is the ego talking to them. But we'll get into that once we get into let's continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, well, that's actually a perfect keyword because,
I'm still here.
oh, okay, because I was going to ask you, what is the ego and what function does it have?
Okay. In the creation of the physical, you have a renegade deity that broke away from the original universe and created his own universe called the Milky Way. He sets up 9 planetary spheres. And on the final sphere, which is Earth, it's a movie called The Final Frontier. That's planet Earth. On Earth, the gods above him saw that he created another universe. So the top chief god, which is called Sophia, or they call her the Great Mother, the triple blackness of space. She realized one of her children broke away from her. So she basically wanted to clean up what happened here. So what is right here wouldn't completely destroy what's up here. If you can understand that. If I need to repeat that, I will. She needed to create, she needed to correct a mistake. How do you correct a mistake? I'm gonna go into it and I'm gonna explain the ego of how it came, because a mistake is a part of an ego. If something is perfect, it can't be a mistake in something perfect. So when it was up here, it was perfect, and it slipped down here, and now you have mistakes, trial and error. That's the physical plane. The physical plane is the mistake. But let's get into it. A renegade deity breaks away and creates his own universe and his own planetary spheres. Then he comes to Earth, and the Great Mother comes to him and says, his name is Yaldabaoth, or you call him Yahweh or Jehovah or God. They just call him God. She comes to God and says, why don't you create a man so he will worship you? And God says, that's a good idea. Let us create man. So he created man. But man wouldn't stand up. So she said, why don't you breathe life into man so he will stand up? Not knowing that she was tricking him. And when he breathed life into man, what came through man was this something called a seed of light. The seed of light is called the soul or melanin. We'll get into that later. And it comes into this man, and God realizes that he gave man something he shouldn't have because the mother tricked him. This is in all the mythologies. So man stands up, and he has, the seed is consciousness, actually. Man has a conscience. He was supposed to be a slave to God and worship him forever. But now man has a consciousness. So man and woman stands up. And they like, what do they say? They saw, or they saw they were naked.
Yeah.
Or they had consciousness. God said, eat from the tree of life. The tree of life is the realm of the ego, which keeps you trapped in conventional works of society. You know, you got to go get a job. First you got to get an education. You got to go get a job. You got to make money constantly. You have to do these things constantly of how society tells you to do it. That is the realm of the ego or the tree of life. But he said, don't eat from the tree of knowledge where the serpent was on. He said, do not eat from this tree. I forbid you from eating from this tree. And Eve did it anyway. But Eve represents the feminine energy in our body. The tree represents the body in itself. And the apple represents melanin. We'll get into that.
Okay.
Because if you cut an apple, it turns brown. We'll get into that. We'll get into that. The ego. The ego is the creation of the renegade God that keeps a veil over the soul from knowing truly that the soul is in actuality higher than the God that created it. The ego tells you don't jump off that cliff because you'll die. So the ego is a survival mechanism inside of you that keeps you conjoined to the physical, and you don't want to let go of the physical. But if you existed prior to the physical, then true life is really outside of the physical. Yeah. And the ego doesn't, the ego keeps you ignorant of it. Hope that answered your questions.
Yeah, that was a really good answer. That was a good answer. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now let's move on. You mentioned your grandmother in your book, and she played a great role in your life. Would you like to go a little bit deeper on that? What role that was?
Well, yes. Grandma Margaret had 15 children, and they grew up in Salter, South Carolina, on a farm. We come from a farm. She was the epitome of a strong Black woman. She was a teacher, a school teacher, and she also was the town's what you would call the people who make clothes, the tailor of the town. She made everybody clothes and everything. So if your child needed a new outfit, she would make, you know, new outfits for everybody. But the reason why I put her in the book is because she symbolizes the great mother. God isn't the highest deity. That's what they lie to you. This masculine deity that runs this patriarchal realm isn't the highest deity. The highest deity is a deity. Her name is Newt, but she has many names. And Newt is the triple blackness of space. And she represents wisdom. And my grandmother was the epitome of wisdom because she was a Christ figure in our family's tree. She laid the foundation of why people conducive that do things like me. I do it in a different way. You know, I teach metaphysics and esotericism. She did it in her own way. Yes, she believed in the Bible. She was a part of the Eastern Stars, you know, the whole Mason thing. Yeah. The Eastern Star is serious. If you don't know, the Eastern Star is serious. So it's still metaphysical. They just didn't know that. But she imparted her Christly ways in a different way, but she gave light to people and gave them some type of sustainment within themselves to be a Christ figure to somebody else. So she instilled that in the family, and I want to instill that in other people the same way that she did. Yeah. And that's why I wrote a chapter after her in the goddesses.
And what would you say? Well, first let me ask this. Let me say it like this. There's a theory that women were able to reproduce children on their own.
Yes. Yes. You can get a book called The Parthenogenesis, volumes 1 and 2. But it's even older than that. Whenever they talk about the Immaculate Conception, they're talking about Black people. Where do Black people come from? Do we come from caves? Do we come from pyramids? Where did the first Black person come from? Where did man come from? So they talk about the Immaculate Conception and how did a man come first? That don't make sense. I mean, have you ever seen a man have a child?
No.
Okay, so we know that's a lie. Let's go to the ancient text. The ancient people said there were a group of women, which they came out with the movie Wonder Woman, and they talk about the Amazon. These Amazon women were called the Typhonian women. Typhonian women. The Typhonians were what you call pre-dynastic Egypt. It existed. It was a civilization that existed prior to Egypt. Where did Egypt get all their shit from? Mm-hmm. Excuse my language. You know, where did Egypt get where did they get their stuff from? Did they just come up with it or something? No, they were taught through more ancient people. So it's older than Kemet. And these people were called the Typhonians. These particular women. So the first beings on planet Earth were Black women. They actually show you that in the movie Alien. And they show you that in the movie Men in Black, I think part 2, where they sent the Black woman in the spaceship back to some planet. But they also call it Andromeda. Whenever they talk about Andromeda, they're talking about the time on Earth where it was just women. These women were the first teachers. They taught how to build. They taught how to hunt. They taught knowledge and all wisdom of all things. 7 liberal arts came from these Black women. So these Black women were on planet Earth for thousands of years. This is Atlantis. Typhonia is a part of Atlantis. And these women basically were what you would call androgynous. Like, you ever seen some of these women out here and they got strong faces?
Yeah.
Like, they got strong, like, manly features. They still, you know, they're women, but they seem like men.
Yeah.
They're still women. That comes from this civilization. Everything comes back. But anyways, they were getting old, and it needed to be a transition of power. So everything has to relinquish power, just like that renegade god got relinquished out of the mother. A man had to come, or a male had to come to Earth to help out these ancient women on things that they wouldn't be able to do in the future. So their energy ran out and they needed to create a male. How they created men. They would lay on their backs and have their yoni positioned towards the sun, which is a coincidence because the sun is called, a male is called a sun.
Yeah.
That isn't a coincidence. I'm sorry. So the sun would excite their bone marrow, because within their bone marrow they had sperm in their bone marrow, because I told you they were androgynous. The soul is androgynous. It's part masculine, it's part feminine. So at one point in time, if you are a man, you were a woman, and if you are a woman, you were a man at one point. Anyways, the sun would excite the sperm in their bone marrow, and the bone marrow would be conducive with something in their body called Bartholin ducts. The Bartholin ducts will probe the Bartholin glands. And through this interaction with the sun, they could pull souls from a constellation down into their womb and make what you call males. And they show that in Predator. Alien is the black woman, Predator is the black man. What's the difference? Alien got claws, they don't have technology, they don't got bombs, they don't got all what the Predator has. Predator has guns, they got bombs and all of that, but they're talking about different technologies dealing with the yoni and the phallus. The yoni is older than the phallus. Y'all know what a yoni and a phallus is, right? I bet you do. But anyways, they pulled the male down here so they could protect them and to hunt. So all you males, all patriarchal in this society, you ain't nothing but a slave to the woman. And you heard it from me. But what happened, you had 32 dynasties in Kemet. After the 17th dynasty, a group of priests called the Amenites, Amen, which means the sun, Ra. Amen Ra is different. Amen is the sun, which is Ra. They worship Ra, which is that masculine deity, the renegade deity. They turned on the women and they basically said that we're going to make this thing patriarchal. We're going to make the male pharaoh and all of this stuff with men, masculinity, we're going to make this the head of the world now, and we're going to suppress the goddesses in the feminine worlds. So you will never know about it. And up till this day, after the 17th dynasty, we're still suffering for what the Ammonites did.
Yeah, I heard a story before, or a theory, that first that there were women here and they came from Venus, and then they said that males came from Mars, and then they had some kind of war here and whatnot, and I don't know, like
Well, Venus is Sirius. The Venus star is Sirius. Mars is the root chakra. Mars is one of our prime planets. We have a lot to do with Mars. But there wasn't a war between men and women. There's a war between men and women now. Or there's a war between the goddesses and the gods. The goddesses are older than the gods. So if I tell all women, you need to be reading up on these goddesses, and it's time out for all that, stuff with nature and love. That's from a later period. We'll get into that. Are we going to get into that? The whole hate thing.
With nature, no, not really. But if you want to dive in a little bit deeper, you can go ahead. No problem.
Okay. How are we going to get out of this thing? And I'm talking about the physical. I'm talking about oppression or whatever you're dealing with. Whatever you're dealing with. The world tells you to love. You must love your enemy. Now, what type of crap is that? You got to love your enemy. So they reverse the text because they talk about, in Star Wars, they talk about something called the Force. The Force is with you.
Mm-hmm.
The Force they're talking about, see, melanin is a cosmic computer. How it works, you can't come the same way the church comes and ask a deity outside of you for something to happen. That's why nothing has happened for us. You can't do that, because then I just tell you that the deity that created the physical made a mistake and gave man a seed that he wasn't supposed to give us, called a soul. So this deity outside of you is in actuality your enemy. How do we know that? Well, he created another people to run the planet other than you. So he's your enemy. The deity outside of you, they call God, Yahweh, or Jehovah. That's your enemy. But there's another deity inside of you, which is not a goddess or a god. It's androgynous. It's not a goddess or a god. You can't put a name on it. And it's called chaos. We'll get into chaos in a minute.
Yep.
This deity inside of you only reacts off hate. Go get the movie The Hulk. When the Hulk gets mad, he grows into this big green man. Well, you go to the temple, they got a guy named Osiris, and he's all green. The melanin, it has nothing to do with actual hate. And I'm not telling you to hate people. That's mundane. It's more advanced than that. What I'm saying is, would there be a problem if you hated oppression?
Nope.
Would that be a problem?
No. Mm-hmm.
Would there be a problem if you hated your life circumstances? Would that be a problem if you hated that particular stance in life that you're dealing with, the problems?
Nope.
So you have to get mad, and by getting mad, you direct the God inside of you, and you don't ask it. Why would you ask it? Because you are the God. Are you a human with a soul, or are you a soul in a human?
You are a soul in a human.
So you never was human in the first place.
Yep.
We've been to many worlds. But we got drunk off illusion called Maya, the physical plane. So you're drunk with these two eyes, but there's another eye that knows all. And we're trying to get back to this. We're trying to remember which Osiris' body was chopped up So you're trying to put his body back together, Humpty Dumpty, once again. You're trying to remember the body, who you are. So we're the only people, we're the only beings on the planet that don't remember what they are. A dog knows what it is. The grain of sand on the beach knows what it is. The white man knows what he is. But we're the only people that don't know what we are. So we had to go to the lowest of the lowest states. And when it comes to physics, whatever goes the lowest will rise the highest.
Yep.
So we went lower than anything, and this power is going to come through hate. Hating just being tied up in this mess. So every day you wake up, they got a movie called Happy Death Day. Every day you wake up, you do the same thing. You get up, you brush your teeth, you go take a shower, you put on your clothes, you go to work, you get off work, you get something to eat, you come home, you watch a movie, you cut the lights off, go to sleep, wake up and do the same thing.
Yeah.
And this girl was trapped in this basically reality. She was trapped in a dream. And in the movie, she kept doing the same thing. She would wake up, she was like, hold up now, the same thing keeps occurring. I'm seeing the same stuff. But not until, because she was an asshole too. Not until this black girl in her sorority, she lived on, it was a college campus. It was called Happy Death Day. You go look it up, real good movie. But not until she came to this black girl, and they were picking on the black girl. They was calling her fat and ugly. It was like the AKA, like a sorority or something like that. They was calling her ugly and fat. And she came to this black, the girl in the movie came to the black girl and said, stop picking on her. But she was an asshole in herself. So they looked at her like, hold up, you one of the main people that be picking on people. But she had to change herself. And that's how she got out of the dream. She figured out why she kept going back in the dream. So this is what we talking about. A changing of the energy. We already did the love stuff.
Yeah.
We already did it. That was for a time when we had to nurture nature in the physical. The physical is done now. They just said yesterday they got a UFC fighter who's a transsexual in the ring. He's actually a male, and they had the transsexual fight a real woman, and he cracked her skull.
Oh.
And when she awoke, she said, I had never felt a power like that. It's a male. Of course you haven't felt that type of power.
No.
The physical is finished. It's finished. We have to go to a new paradigm. Let me get some questions.
Checking if there are questions.